Welcome to Hungarian Horizon, a podcast about Hungary, its people, and their stories. My name is Balázs Frei.
And I'm Bálint.
Here with us today is Liz Madaras, co-founder and CEO of Poliloop, a company whose unique bacterial cocktail can break down various non-biodegradable plastics within weeks. This truly groundbreaking innovation has garnered attention from the world over for its potential to reduce plastic waste. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Liz, you and your partner Kristina Levi invented this method yourselves. What led you to this idea?
I think by now everyone kind of figured out that we have to do something to save our planet. And we put our heads together and we tried to find what we can do using our knowledge and our university degrees to put something down on the table which can actually have an impact.
And how did the process of developing the bacterial cocktail begin?
Scientific discoveries are always very, very interesting, because when you set this path before you never know what's going to come up precisely. We did hope to have great results, but we didn't know when we're going to have these results. We just really believed in our project, and we had a very solid research plan, and we followed it. And then when it didn't work, we iterated, we tried something new, and then we set out to actually solve this issue.
And how did you come up with the name Poliloop?
Polymer and loop, because we're looping plastics back into nature.
It's a very, very creative name.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's so catchy.
It's
like
incredibly
Poliloop.
And you were doing this research while you were also doing your PhD at university?
Yes, we met when we were doing our master's degree in pharmaceutical engineering, and the entire company idea came from us discussing what are we going to do after we finished. And we realized that we want to try to build something on our own, and that plus the fact that we really wanted to have something impactful led us down to Poliloop.
And then tell us, how exactly does your technology work?
You can imagine it as composting, or the same way a fallen leaf disappears. Something eats it. A microbial community uses it as food. And for our microbial community, the food is plastics.
And what is the byproduct of this process?
Currently, we hypothesize that the byproduct can be used as a soil conditioner, because it still has all the nutrients that the bacteria used, and it still has all the carbon that was in the plastic, but now it's transformed into something which is biologically available and safe.
How much time does this process take?
It really depends on what type of plastic we're processing. For single-use plastics, it's from 4 to 8 weeks.
And what kinds of plastics does it work on overall, so altogether?
Whatever you throw in the yellow bin, we've tried it and we've tested it and it works. We're constantly expanding the scope of plastics degradable, but the most important ones, single-use plastics, are already in our scope.
And what happens at the end of the process? So how do you get rid of the bacteria?
Well, the bacteria die after they stop receiving food, and you don't necessarily have to get rid of them. It really mimics nature and how nature deals with its recyclables, like fallen leaves and banana peels and apples and whatnot.
And are there any safety concerns whatsoever when it comes to this process?
We did test for approximately 216 potential contaminants through a third-party laboratory. They found that all legislated limits, which can be considered toxic to the environment, are well below the acceptable limits. So we're very hopeful that with these types of plastics, even on an industrial level, the end product will be safe to use.
And what do you need for this process to be viable at a commercial level?
Very good engineers.
Maybe if you could explain why, or just
well, even though the process itself is analogous to composting, it's still a new novel technology. We have to find the right equipment, the right machinery, the right screws and bolts, and just to make sure that maybe something in an already existing machine is made out of plastic, and in our case we have to find a new type of material. So we're really focusing on building this environment to recreate what we've already tested out in a laboratory setting on a more industrial scale. And for this we need the good engineers who know that instead of plastic I can use, I don't know, XYZ or stainless steel, and they can design the degradation facility or machine depending on the size in a way which is cost effective as well.
And when do you think it might become commercially viable?
We're currently working on making this happen on commercial viability. We're doing the test. We already have 2 designs in construction. So by the end of the year, I can probably tell you more.
And when did you realize this whole project was going to be as big as it clearly became? What was that moment when you were like, yeah, this is it?
I mean, I think it's not as big as it can be and potentially will be. We still see that we have so much to do for this to actually be able to put a dent in the plastic waste crisis. We're super optimistic, but we're also very grounded. We know that we're just beginning. We're not finished yet.
And do you have any major partners as of yet?
We are in contact with some big corporations, but I cannot divulge the names of these entities at this point.
And on that note, do you know of any other companies which have a similar process to yours that work similarly or similarly effective, similarly quick? Is there anyone else out there?
For biotechnological means of plastics degradation, there's no company that we know of that is exactly like ours. We know that there are several research groups working on this. We do know that there is a French company which does have a biotechnological approach towards PET recycling. Other than that, I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe some secret lab somewhere, but
could be
nothing official.
Area 51, definitely something going on there. No, and how can we expect Poliloop to develop over the next 5 years or so?
Well, in the next 5 years, we want to nail down the industrial process. That's for sure. That's our major focus right now, and it's our primary target. Next to that, we're, of course, working on developing a lot of side projects as well to expand the scope of plastics, to have new technologies under our umbrella, to have 2 more patents at least. And we're also looking towards expanding internationally because this is a global issue and it needs a global solution.
And when do you think such practices for decomposing plastic waste might become normalized?
That is an excellent question. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on when can we have the technology ready to go. It depends on the legal framework. It depends on citizens, because citizens can also be a driving force in what type of waste management they wish to see in the foreseeable future. I truly hope that within the next 2 years, we can at least start testing live in industrial settings, say, try to solve the plastic problem of a city or a community.
The current management of plastic pollution is clearly failing, as around 8 million metric tons enter the ocean annually. Do you think your solution may eventually be able to manage the problem at a global level?
Yes, because our solution can be implemented where the plastic waste is being produced. You don't have to put it on a container and ship it to the other part of the world. Our facilities can be built close to where we're actually producing waste. And one of our main goals is actually to stop plastic from getting into the oceans and getting into our forests and then getting into our bodies even. And for this, we will definitely need to really find good partners who can implement this in the target countries.
Do you also plan to expand your business into providing the infrastructure for taking the product of, or the byproducts of this process and then redistributing it to where they're needed and then reusing them as hummus or as whatever you can reuse them for?
We want to remain a technology-based company. We don't want to have a lot of infrastructure because that takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of capital, it takes a lot of people. It really slows down scaling. We want to have partners who already have these logistics routes in place. They manage waste management facilities, they have thousands of employees, and they want to have a new business arm, or they want to expand their portfolio in waste management, or even if they're trying to reinvent their company because their current product is becoming old-fashioned. But for us to build up and man these facilities, it would take so much more time than to actually work with people and companies who already have them in place.
And how much help do you get from these venture capital companies? We know that Techstars has invested in you, which is one of the probably most famous such companies in the world. What's the experience of that like? Do they help you? Do they help you with finances? Do they help you with operations, with partnerships?
Techstars really helped us to figure out what running a company is like, because we were just scientists. We didn't have any experience, and they really helped us to understand how a business looks like. And from our seed investors, we learned that they help us with our finances as well. They provided accountants for us. They give financial advice as well. They have different partners whom they introduce us to help our business expand into different countries.
And was it difficult, because you were two young women at Budapest University, was it difficult to set up your company, to get everything started, or did you feel that the experience was quite smooth and normal?
It's not normal. It's not usual. It's never easy. But if we'd only do things which are easy, then we wouldn't advance as a society and as people either.
Sure.
And what were the biggest challenges regarding the given gender gap in this sector?
This is a really interesting topic, because I know my perspective. I've never been a man to know how much easier that would have been. There might have been instances where I could have felt that if I were a man, then maybe I would only have to say something once, not twice or three times, or I would be more convincing. But I'm not sure, because I was never in that position. What we try to do is advocate for more women to become like us, and more women to enter STEM, for this to be normalized, and in the future potentially even help women to become entrepreneurs and engineers and whatever they wish.
And did you feel that the entrepreneurial environment in Budapest, coming from Budapest Technical University, sort of helped you, made the process easier, or was it something that you thought would be less tedious?
Interesting question.
We're grasping at straws here.
So in our case, it was a bit more different, because we started out quite early with Techstars. And we got into this international environment. We've got people there from the US, from Germany, Canada, Russia, the UAE, Jordan. So that was the norm for us. People are, and entrepreneurs are like that. People are like that. And then when we came back to Hungary, we really did receive a lot of guidance from our seed investors, Vespucci. and I'm not sure I actually met the Budapest entrepreneurial environment because of that.
That's quite interesting, actually.
It is.
And you say that this was an international environment. Did you spend most of your time outside of Hungary, and if so, where?
Well, during the Techstars program, we were in Abu Dhabi, but after that, we came back home. But and before that, we were spending just so much time in the lab that there was no true entrepreneurship. There was a lot of science, less entrepreneurial endeavors, and afterwards, it was just, I don't know. I always just, I think internationally. I think it's in our globalized world, that's the most healthy way of thinking, and that everything is part of a very, very fragile global system, and we work to actually become part of that.
And what motivated you to come back to Hungary? So we do want to keep a scientific base here in Hungary as well, and it just made sense because we know the people here, we know how to hire here, because hiring people is very, very difficult, and at least until we actually have a product ready to launch to market, it just didn't make sense for us to move to, I don't know, Hong Kong or Abu Dhabi or New York or whatever.
Do you plan to eventually move headquarters then?
Not necessarily. We will do what makes most sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah. So, as a young researcher, how did you manage to get your contributions be recognized? Because I know a lot of young scientists who are trying to get noticed, but they are kind of facing this issue of age.
Oh, the different type of ageism. We did it on our own. We didn't do it with a research group. We didn't have 7 professors sitting above us, which is both good and bad. But I think this ties back into having an entrepreneurial spirit. And having an entrepreneurial spirit in science is a layer of entrepreneurialism, I think, which I hope becomes more frequent with young scientists, because, as you said, oftentimes young scientists have great ideas, but they might be told that it doesn't make sense by someone who's more senior, and they don't have this opportunity to try it out on their own. We're very fortunate to have this opportunity to do it.
And where did this entrepreneurial spirit come for you too?
I think our families and how we were brought up really helped in this, and it might be just because it made a lot of sense. Logically, it made sense to act in a certain way in a certain period of time, and I think these 2 things.
Thank you very much for being here with us.
Sure.
You gave great answers to all of our questions. It was really nice having you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that bell icon.